Today's topic is intermittent fasting for weight loss, and I'm going to give you all kinds of helpful nuggets here that I think are really going to help your understanding of how intermittent fasting can be incorporated to help you sustain more fat loss, and in many cases, faster fat loss. So, the first couple of things I got to tell you are this is a really important topic because it will, at some point or another, affect almost everybody. I mean, even very, very fit, lean people periodically will go through a phase where they do bring on some excess body fat. Almost everyone's been there. And that then it's a bit of a struggle to lose without sacrificing muscle tissue. So for almost everybody, we've either had excess body fat before or have some now or will have some in the future. So I think this is an important topic. The other thing is that 95% of people who attempt to lose body fat will fail in the long run. Sometimes they're successful for a few short months, but in the grand scheme, they end up putting that weight back on or never losing it in the first place. So, all the more reason to have more tricks of the trade in your arsenal against weight and to excess body fat. So, let's talk about intermittent fasting and why this is important. And first, really, I should define what it is. Okay, intermittent fasting does not necessarily mean that you are cutting down on your total caloric intake. So if you've been averaging roughly 2,000 calories a day for the last couple of weeks, it doesn't necessarily have to mean that you're going to actually cut down to 18 or 1900 calories or fewer. That's not really the intent. In intermittent fasting, the intent is solely to take those calories that you're normally eating and just compress them into a smaller window of the day. So that if you would normally wake up at say 7 a.m. and have a breakfast, you're potentially not going to do that now. You're going to wait to eat. Or the other way, you might maybe instead of eating till 7, 8, 9 o'clock at night before bed, perhaps you stop eating a lot earlier. In some cases, it's both. So what you do is you give yourself a set window and you say outside of that window, 0 calories come into your body. And that means you can't have like coffee with a little bit of cream in the morning if you are intending to fast, to do intermittent fasting through the morning, because that cream is going to be caloric. It also means that if your plan is to stop caloric intake at say 6 p.m. and that the rest of the evening you're going to be without calories, well, this means that you couldn't even have some vitamin waters because some of those will even contain a little bit of calorie. Or, again, if you were to have something really, really light, just a few calories, that would potentially disrupt your fast. So the idea becomes with intermittent fasting, how do we bring it down to a small window of time? Now, for some people, that window is really small. It's like an hour or two a day. All their calories get put into that 1 or 2 hours, and that's it. Now, that's very extreme and very difficult to do. And some of us would argue that might not always be the best thing for your digestive system to get all those calories in a very small window. But what's more common is a 6-hour feeding window, maybe an 8-hour feeding window, a 10, even sometimes a 12-hour feeding window. And when you look at how easy some of these options can be for you, frankly, many people are almost intermittent fasting already. I'll give you a couple examples. I've had people come to me and say, I really want to get into intermittent fasting. I understand that it's going to be good for my weight loss. And I'll say, okay, great. For most people, that's pretty healthy to do. And I'll find out that they don't really have much of a breakfast. Perhaps they'll just have like a quick piece of toast and again, a little bit of cream in their coffee or something. So very few calories. And then they don't really consume significant calories until around lunchtime, around noon or so. They'll have another dinner as well, so another big meal at dinner. And that then after dinner, they might just lightly graze through the rest of the evening. Okay, so when I see a situation like that, and this has happened many times, I just say, all right, let's get rid of the toast in the morning. We don't need that. Let's get the cream out of the coffee. We don't want that. So now we're non-caloric all the way right up until noon, until lunchtime. Then you're eating from noon till dinner time, so perhaps 6 or maybe 7 hours or so. And then cut out the grazing in the evening. After dinner, that's it. No more grazing at all. If you need the taste of something in your mouth, have something that is truly non-caloric, okay? And then if you do that, now we've got our feeding window down to 6 or 7 hours a day, which is fantastic for weight loss. Most people will see body fat getting more utilized by taking on this kind of strategy. And if that's ever not conducive for you, if maybe your work schedule or something changes and you need to change that a little bit, instead of noon to 6 or noon to 7, maybe now you go to like 10 to 4 or something like that. And so, you can play with it. You've got a lot of freedom with intermittent fasting. In general, smaller feeding windows do more for your fat loss than larger ones. So if, for example, you were going to be eating from 6 a.m., breakfast at 6 a.m., all the way to dinner at 6 p.m., and that's your 12-hour fasting window or so, well, you could still be pretty successful that way, But in general, I would say don't expect to lose as much body fat with that larger feeding window as you would with a smaller one. Usually about 5 hours to about 8 or 9 hours is pretty much the sweet spot for people where it's somewhat manageable, where you're not spending the absolute bulk of the day just absolutely starving. And that at the same time, you can usually work it into your life and your work schedule pretty well. But again, it's subjective. Everybody's got a very different lifestyle. Now, I do want to talk to you a little bit about the fact that intermittent fasting does carry some small risks for people with certain health problems. Not everybody's going to have the same kind of body, the same kind of endocrinology. I mean, we just all have very different makeup. So there are some people who could get lightheaded or lethargic and have significantly reduced exercise capacity from this kind of thing. It's not terribly common, but it can happen. And I don't want you to see a video like this one or anything else on the internet and think that, okay, it's time to just hang in there no matter what. And if I'm getting lightheaded or dizzy or anything, then I'm just going to hang in there with the intermittent fasting. I don't suggest that. I think you need a much more personalized approach if you're experiencing any kind of symptoms outside of hunger. Hunger is the one symptom that I suppose you can expect, and there's really no significant risk there. So that's the first thing to know, is that there are some small risks for some people. Everybody is different, and that it is a good idea to, especially if you have medical conditions, it's a good idea to really seek out a professional, reach someone who's got this kind of background, either myself or someone else in the field, and really get a handle on whether or not this is going to make sense to you. I also suggest go ahead and talk to your MD. I know a lot of MDs don't necessarily have the greatest handle on this, but you do want to talk to them about potential blood sugar imbalances and other things you may have going on. Now, in addition to all that, there is a positive side as well, that in addition to the fat burning, you're also going to potentially see some detoxification. And this is the really nice thing about intermittent fasting. It's also why a lot of people have intermittent fasting in their life, not for the purpose of fat loss. So there's really no fat to lose. It's because it is such a cleanser for the body. It has the ability to help purge more toxins out of the body than would normally be purged. And at the same time, I've read a good number of studies that talk about the benefits of just giving your digestive system something of a break for that 15, 16, 18 hours a day or whatever it's going to be. So you've got some benefits outside of the fat burning benefits as well. Anyway, guys, that's all for this video today. Let me know. Go ahead and reach out to me anytime what your personalized questions are. When I'm talking to the masses like this, everybody needs slightly different advice. So if I can understand your particular situation and your health a little bit better, I can give you more personalized advice. Go ahead and reach out to me. My phone number is down below. You can, of course, comment with any questions or feedback. I'm already looking forward to your health and your wellness success.